Before we begin, viewer discretion is advised. This is for entertainment purposes only.
It's the rule of Don, no longer the rule of law. And people need to understand the lines that are being redrawn in Texas are not about party, they're about power.
It's a $6 million authorization to Cal State to research methods of determining slavery ancestry. It's what
Gavin Newsom, just golden boy, just got roasted so hard the state's power grid might have flickered. Stick around, this meltdown makes Hollywood drama look like a preschool naptime story. Strolled into a verbal buzzsaw, and David Webb was the guy holding the handle. Imagine a luxury car crash in slow motion, only this one's fueled by bad policies and denial instead of gasoline. California's.
I want to bring you in because I saw you kind of reacting during the intro there.
It's the Gavin Newsom effect.
Yeah. Tell us what your thoughts are. Reparations in California.
Okay, first of all, Gavin Newsom, look at what he signed and what he didn't sign. So he vetoes the bill that would allow colleges to give priority admissions to descendants of slaves.
Before we dive deeper, smash that like button and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. California, the land of beaches, billionaires, and Teslas locked tighter than the economy. Newsom once bragged it would be the shining example for the rest of America. And, well, he was right. It's the perfect example of what not to do. A paradise that's starting to look more like a prequel to a disaster movie.
Should pay attention to. He virtue signals without doing anything. $6 million is going to go to another, type study. And it goes nowhere. When you look at how blacks have voted in California on issues, not on party, they're not for a lot of the issues that Democrats push out there. Reparations, they're gone. Okay.
David Webb decided it's time to tell the truth, and is doing it with humor sharper than any headline. He doesn't come in yelling. He comes in smiling, like a surgeon ready to operate with sarcasm as his scalpel. He looks at Newsom's California and smirks. So this is what happens when paradise forgets to pay the electric bill.
Gavin Newsom just signed a bill to build a reparations bureaucracy. I guess he figured if he can't fix the state, he'll at least get a cameo in the next Black Panther. The new law, Senate Bill 518, creates the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery and authorizes both federal and state funding. But the operation of the Bureau depends on future legislation, which in California means it'll start hiring staff before they figure out what it actually does. SB 518 creates jobs for bureaucrats to figure out how to distribute money they don't have to people they.
The first jab lands where it hurts most: crime. Those sun-soaked streets were once in music videos. Now they look like the director's cut of Mad Max, Venice Beach. Smash and grabs are so common, you might need a reservation. Webb delivers it all with that calm, deadly humor, calling out how California's greatest innovation might just be rebranding theft as progress.
Not a monarch, he is not a king, and he should stop acting like one. It's a federal judge with a federal order. Period, full stop. It's the rule of law. These are the foundational principles of a constitutional democracy. He must work under the constraints as a constitutional officer of the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what this court order demands of the President of the United States. He is not a...
You can't buy a gas stove anymore, but you can swipe one, no guilt, no problem, as long as it's under $950. Webb doesn't hold back. That's not justice reform, that's a Black Friday special for criminals. He paints a state where cops are quitting, thieves are thriving, and regular folks are Googling Texas homes for sale between car alarms. At this rate, Webb jokes, California doesn't need a justice department, it needs a punch card for frequent offenders.
They've failed. You know what the real reparation in this country is?
What?
The real reparation in this country is to give someone the best shot at a good education, the best shot at a good economic environment and a job. The best anti-poverty program is a job. Better than that, a career. You do those things, black, white, Appalachia, East LA, wherever you are in this country, and you will suddenly see a whole difference, or at least a remarkable difference in a population.
And Joey, maybe that's what Americans see. Maybe they agree with David right there on his last point, that putting out money or these type of reparations is just not popular. It's not going to work. And that's why you see in the poll, 55% of people are opposed to what Gavin Newsom is pushing.
10 robberies, get the 11th free, he laughs, before pivoting to homelessness, the state's most expensive PR stunt. Webb calls it Gavin's outdoor housing program, a billion-dollar illusion where compassion replaces competence. He's not mocking the homeless, he's mocking the photo ops, the vanishing budgets, and leaders who step over tents while talking about root causes. Every new project gets a ribbon cutting, and every tent city gets its own zip code. Only in California, Webb says, can you pay $3,000 a month for rent and still share an alleyway with someone roasting marshmallows over a trash fire.
But can I ask a common sense question? When did California have institutional slavery?
They did have slaves. It just wasn't legal. So they never, as a state.
So you're going to punish an entire state if he had his way for something they never actually did.
Elections have consequences. If you want to live in California, that's what you get.
I'll take Georgia. I'm in Florida, but I'll take Georgia, which is the South, north of us.
I like Georgia pretty well.
Well, let it be noted that Gavin Newsom is pursuing this multi-million-dollar effort right now to study the descendants of slavers, as the state is also reckoning with a multi-billion-dollar budget deficit. So they can't get their own house in order. They're just continuing to.
Then Webb slices into California's biggest illusion, free speech. Freedom here is real, he says, as long as your opinion is pre-approved by the algorithm. He paints campuses as emotional support groups for fragile ideas and mocks the culture that fears disagreement more than earthquakes. He calls out Newsom's unity speeches, which somehow divide everyone. The crowd laughs, but it stings because it's true. California isn't losing people, Webb says. It's exporting refugees from overregulation.
Gavin Newsom is living rent-free in the very oversized heads of many Fox News hosts, one of those being Sean Hannity. Last night on Fox News, most of the primetime shows were focused on Gavin Newsom. They weren't focused on ending conflict around the world. They weren't focused on the growing cracks in the American economy thanks to Donald Trump's economic policy. They are obsessed with Gavin Newsom. And
he calls it performance politics, where prosperity's just a stage act. The budget reads like a movie script, big dreams, zero accountability, and a surprise ending where everyone's broke. Webb breaks it all down with surgical humor, billionaires buying climate guilt credits while working families flee to states where the lights actually stay on. He ties it all together: crime, homelessness, censorship, taxes, one giant ecosystem of chaos, with Newsom smiling in the middle like it's an art exhibit. Don't try this at home, Webb says. Unless you want Florida to start looking like heaven.
We hear Newsom, but probably the most qualified person in this podcast right now to speak on Newsom is Adam Carolla. This is you sitting with him. If I'm not mistaken, this is 12 years ago.
Yes.
10 or 12 years ago when you guys are sitting down. He's in your set. He's in your podcast. Rob, if you want to play this clip, this 1 minute exchange between the two will give you some context, and then I want to hear from you. If Newsom's changed at all, has he won you over? Do you want to endorse him? Do you want to get behind him? Go ahead, Rob.
Of African Americans in the state of California, roughly half of Latino families have no access to a checking account or an ATM. Things we take for granted. They don't have a checking account.
What's wrong with them?
And well, because they don't have the resources to stock those things.
Picture this: Newsom holding a press conference surrounded by fire, theft, and blackouts, still bragging about leadership. Webb laughs. California's biggest innovation is figuring out how to charge people extra for leaving. Behind the jokes is cold truth, the state's bleeding money, talent, and sanity. Webb compares it to a CEO giving TED Talks while his company files for bankruptcy. California's both the richest and the most broken, he says. A place where billionaires build bunkers and everyone else builds GoFundMes.
He and a social media team, they are busy trying to mock President Trump on X by posting messages in all caps. He's trying to pretend to be Donald Trump. Gavin is also attacking Fox News hosts. He's trying to bait conservatives into social media fights. He's actually referred to our own Tommy Lahren account as Yelp for toilet.
Homelessness. Rebranded as a housing opportunity. Crime. Equity in action. Rolling blackouts. Energy equality. Webb quips, if Newsom captained the Titanic, he'd call the iceberg a climate initiative. The audience erupts, not because it's cruel, but because it's spot on. Webb's comedy bites because it's true. California isn't burning, it's being professionally rebranded. The fix is simple, he says. Start valuing reality over reputation. Until then, he calls California the most expensive public service announcement ever made.
Think we had the closest we'll get to a declaration of war from Gavin Newsom yesterday.
He's declared a war on culture, on history, on science, on knowledge itself. He's delegitimizing news organizations, and he's assaulting the First Amendment.
Is he talking about George Soros? Is he talking about the professors in our universities? Is he talking about the entire Democratic Party? No, he's just talking about Donald Trump.
In Webb's words, California under Newsom isn't failing, it's performing. A tragicomedy with perfect lighting and collapsing props. He jokes, if California's a show, it's gone on way too long. Then he dives into the illusion of innovation, the shiny tricks that look good until you check the price tag. It's like watching a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat. Webb says, only the rabbit's on fire and the hat's being taxed. He laughs about businesses not relocating but evacuating. Newsom calls it evolution. Webb smirks, but it looks more like extinction.
I heard those posts on X that are clearly trolling the president. Can you just talk about that? Is that like a strategy?
I don't know. I hope it's a wake-up call to the President of the United States. I'm sort of following his example. If you've got issues with what I'm putting out, you sure as hell should have concerns about what he's putting out as president. So to the extent it's gotten some attention, I'm pleased. But I think the deeper question is, how have we allowed the normalization of his tweets through social posts over the course of...
He takes aim at California's kind censorship, joking that the state doesn't cancel people, it quietly erases them. Speak your mind, he says, and suddenly you're the villain in a Netflix docuseries. He ties it all together, crime, homelessness, speech, all symptoms of leaders who think hashtags are policies. If common sense were a crime in California, Webb says, half the working class would be serving life sentences. Every revitalization project just builds newer, cleaner tents. Leadership isn't about tweeting empathy, he says. It's fixing the stuff that doesn't trend.
What universities themselves can teach is targeting...
Stop! Donald Trump is now dictating what universities can teach because you got rid of all questioning of everything.
He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested.
They just spent 4 years trying to put the person he's talking about in prison. And they're just shocked that any political figure would consider putting one of his political opponents in jail. They're considering arresting me.
Webb ends with a smirk sharp enough to draw blood. If Newsom loves fantasy that much, he says, he should move to Hollywood, at least there, fiction's expected. The crowd roars. California used to lead America, Webb closes, now it's just a warning label. The laughter rolls, but Webb doesn't gloat, he just shrugs, because when reality becomes this absurd, comedy writes itself. California doesn't need critics anymore, it's become its own punchline.